Hey guys, Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin here. I wanted to talk to you about testing for diastasis rectus abdominis. So first of all, let's start by jumping into what a diastasis is. Diastasis simply means separation. So a diastasis of the rectus abdominis, or the abdominal muscles, is just a separation of the abdominal muscles. This often happens with pregnant and postpartum moms. And I say pregnant because by the end of your third trimester, your abdomen is expanding so much that the connective tissue and those muscles need to separate just a little bit, to give just a little bit to accommodate the growing fetus. After pregnancy, typically, the tissues will reconnect and heal and start to recoil and regain a lot of that tensile strength. But there are times when that doesn't happen. And so there are a lot of moms who continue to have a separation of the abdominal muscles even after childbirth. Now, anytime that I'm talking to moms about diastasis, I always first and foremost want them to know that healing is not always about closing the gap. While the gap for a lot of people may be important, and while a lot of people may have concerns, the important thing is that we're able to generate tension within those muscles and throughout that tissue. So we want to make sure that that connective tissue can become taut again. We want to make sure that those muscles can generate a lot of tension. We don't want it to be where, with activity, everything is just giving. Because if that's the case, that means you're not really having a lot of stability in the abdomen. So that is much more of a concern than whether the gap is closed. And to some extent, the gap will close on its own. Sometimes it needs a little bit of help because that connective tissue, if you think of it, doesn't just run along your abdomen here, but has connections that span laterally into the size of your trunk, along the ribs, and so on. So sometimes there may be a need for additional help, some therapy to help work on manually trying to re-engage those muscle fibers, bring those muscle fibers together, maybe a little bit of feedback so that you can work on better engaging those muscles. Now, how do we test it, right? So typically, when you're going to test for a diastasis, I always tell people try to wait a few weeks. I mean, for the most part, if you've got a separation, you can see it. There are some people whose separation is a little bit milder, and they may even be only, 2-3 finger widths separated, but not so much that distance. It's more so the quality of the tissue underneath. So when you do the testing, we're not only looking at the width of the separation, we're also looking at the quality. If you were to go ahead and test, and you weren't pregnant, you'd probably feel a pretty taut, firm line along the abdomen. So here's what we'll do. When testing, I prefer people to be laying down. So I want you to go ahead and lay down just like this. You pull your shirt up. And you're going to take 3 fingers, and I want you to put them at the level of the belly button. Okay? First thing I want you to do is just lift your head, so bring your chin towards your chest and come up. If you've got a separation, what you're going to notice is that the fingers, because as the abdominal muscles engage, it'll pull some fibers apart, and so you'll notice that separation if you have one. The other thing that you want to notice is the depth. How far are my fingers sinking down when I do that? Is it that a cavern is created? So you kind of want to notice that. And then thirdly, how taut is the tissue under my fingers? So we're going to test at the level of the belly button, and then we're going to walk up probably about, 3 inches or so, 2-3 inches. So you're going to come up and you're going to test there again. So again, 3 fingers there, curl your head and come up. So it's either going to be taut and together, no separation, or your fingers are going to sink in and there's going to be a separation. If there is a separation, again, is that tissue under your fingers tight? And lastly, we're going to do it below the level of the belly button. And we're going to do the same thing, okay? So when I had my son, my issue wasn't so much that I was widely separated, but that at the level of my belly button, I had this depth. My fingers were sinking in probably about maybe this much, almost an inch. And so I wasn't very widely separated. I was 2 finger widths, which is considered normal, but I wasn't able to generate any tension. So that's also a concern. So just so you know, again, when you're testing for diastasis, I want you to wait at least about 3 weeks before you go testing. This should not be something that's of an immediate concern when you have a baby. Rest, heal, relax, at least 3 to 4 weeks, and then go ahead and test like I just showed you. Again, remembering that healing is not so much about that gap as much as it is about the quality of the tissues that you're assessing. If you have any questions, let me know. Take care.